Good evening. You're welcome to another edition of Import-Export Helpline Facebook Live. My name is Dele Ayemibo. We started discussing recently about understanding export business, documentation, and so far we've done three parts. And today we've done 4 parts rather. And today we'll be looking at part 5. Part 5. Understanding export business documentation, part 5. Like I said when I started, documentation is a very critical area of international trade. And the fact that it could spell doom for transaction if it's not well managed. And of course, it has a tendency to make a transaction very successful if it's well managed. So being able to manage documentation is a critical skill in international trade. In the morning we discuss understanding export business regulation, and that regulation is mainly documentation issues. That regulation is mainly documentation issues, and we've done that in the morning. So this evening we'll continue. This evening we'll zero in on financial document, talking about bill of exchange, and then we'll zero in on another document, bill of lading, and then most likely we'll talk about airway bill, and probably we'll start discussing commercial invoice tomorrow morning. Bill of exchange. Bill of exchange is a document in international trade. It's a financial document in international trade. It's a financial document in international trade because it's used to demand for payment. It's used to demand for payment. A bill of exchange is an unconditional order in writing addressed by one person to another, signed by the person giving it, requiring the person to whom it is addressed to pay on demand or at a future or determinable future time. Addressed by one person to another, signed by the person giving it, and requires the person to whom it is addressed to pay on demand, that's immediately, or at a future determinable time. A sum certain in money to or to the order of a specified person or bearer. Ralph Abiodun, thank you very much for joining. Good morning. Charles, a good day. Thank you very much for joining. Good morning, and you're welcome. A bill of exchange is a document that accompanies a letter of credit transaction or a bill for collection transaction. If you have been following our conversation by now, you have an idea of what letter of credit means. You have an idea of what bill for collection means. If you are not familiar with those terms, then you probably just check some of our previous videos, and you'll be able to have a good understanding of what those terms really represent. Let's look at this statement again. A bill of exchange is a document that accompanies shipping document and basically demanding for payment. Basically demanding for payment. It is issued by a party in favor of another party, demanding for payment from that other party. Number one, it is unconditional. What does that mean? There is no condition allowed to deny payment. When you sign a bill of exchange, you are given an unconditional undertaking to pay. So under no ground should you say you're not going to pay. Unless you now have to go to a court of law and the court of law deem it fit. Because in some cases, the seller have shipped rubbish to you and then you are not paying. Of course, you'll be able to prove that in the court of law. But ordinarily, you can't say you are not going to pay. Unless there's a court order to that effect. You can't say they are not going to pay. Why? Because it's an unconditional order of which you have consented to. A bill of earnings are not considered order in writing and is addressed by one person, the drawer, to another person, the drawee. So it's written in print, addressed by the drawer. Drawer is usually the exporter. The drawee varies. The drawee will be the bank in case of letter of credit. The drawee will be the bank in case of letter of credit. The drawee will be the importer in the case of bill for collections. The drawee will be the bank in the case of letter of credit. It will be the importer in the case of bill for collection. So that's the drawee. The drawee is the person obligated to pay. Is the one that accepts that he's going to pay sometimes in future. Charles Ebude, thank you very much for joining. Ude Agbala Vitalis, thank you very much for joining. Nchedo Adeniran Richard, thank you very much for joining. Good evening and welcome. Number 3. It is addressed by one person refers to as a drawer, to another person refers to the person to make payment, and I've talked about that other person is the drawee, is the drawee, which could be the bank if it's a letter of credit where there is a bank giving undertaking, or the importer if it's a bill for collection where the importer gives the undertaking to pay. On demand, so I can be demanding for payment aside, that as I'm giving you like this, you pay immediately, or at a determinable future date. So I can on demand, that means that's a side transaction, or a determinable future date, that's a tenor transaction, and it involves an amount certain in money. It involves an amount certain in money. It involves an amount certain in money. This will be stated in word and figure on the draft, and is to be paid to a specified person or bearer, to the order or to the order of a bearer. So it's addressed to pay on demand, an amount certain in money. Remember that it's addressed to the order of a specified person or to the bearer. Typically, the person asking for it is the exporter who is expecting payment. A draft stands alone from any contract that might have caused it to be written. Draft is also not just unconditional, it is independent. Even though the draft was issued based on a transaction, that draft is independent of that transaction. Even though a draft, a bill of exchange, is issued as a result of a letter of credit transaction, an import transaction, is issued as a result of letter of credit transaction, an export transaction, it is independent of that transaction. What that means is that any issue with that transaction, there is a delay in shipment, there is a delay in payment, there is a delay in delivery, or whatever happened to the goods, you cannot use that to stop payment. Let me explain why. I am an exporter in Nigeria. I have exported goods to China. The Chinese buyer have accepted my bill of exchange or his bank. They've sent that to me. It's like a check now. I can trade it. It's a tradable instrument. It's a negotiable instrument. So I can sell it to a bank locally that, look, Bank of China have guaranteed, or a company, a reputable company in China have guaranteed to pay me. Can you help me by buying up this draft at a discount After which, you expect payment to come from abroad, and that payment cover what you have given me and your own commission. So I'm expecting $100,000. I sell it to you at $97,000. $97,000. $97,000 for me. If $100,000 come from the bank, what does that mean? The bank now have $3,000 its own fee for this transaction. And that's exactly the way it works. That's exactly the way it works. Because I've sold it to someone, or I could sell it to someone, I'm allowed to sell it to someone who is never a party to that transaction. That is why it's an independent instrument. That is why I cannot say I will not pay because of something else happened. If I have accepted to pay, I can take the other party to court. If I have issue with him on the good he deliver, I am expected to pay. I am expected to pay. If I do not pay, then I can be taken to court. It's an independent instrument. It is separate from the transaction upon which it is based. Therefore, a holder of a draft who takes it in good faith and for value take it free from any defect, entitled to it of the person from whom the holder took it, is free of any defect, entitled to it, and of the person from whom the holder took it. The commercial effect of bill of exchange is that, for example, a bank that holds a draft and expects to collect money from the acceptor when due can sue the acceptor or anyone else whose signature is on the bill of exchange for non-payment, irrespective of any contractual dispute that may be relating to the underlying goods or services. So if I have sold it to a bank in Nigeria and the buyer in China refused to pay me, the bank in Nigeria can sue that importer in China that has accepted this draft and refused to pay. Irrespective of the dispute between us, he can sue him to pay. The status of negotiable instrument is recognized by most international jurisdictions. Negotiable instrument means an unconditional promise or order to pay a fixed amount of money with or without interest or other charges described in the promise or order of it. Negotiable instrument means an unconditional promise or order to pay a fixed amount of money with or without interest or other charges described in the promise. It is an unconditional promise. A negotiable instrument gives an unconditional promise. And that's exactly what a draft represents. A negotiable instrument. A negotiable instrument. Interest or charges described in the promise or order if it is payable to the bearer or to the order at the time it is issued or first come into possession of the holder, or if it's payable on demand at a definite time, or first does it state any other undertaking or instruction by the person promising or ordering payment. The idea is this: if I have a bill of exchange that be accepted, the party that accepted is expected to pay. A term draft or user's draft gives the drawee time for payment. A bank handling a draft on behalf of the seller will first obtain the drawer acceptance and may then hold it until maturity, present it for payment, and then remit the fund to the seller. Also, it can discount it by paying the seller immediately the face value less a discount to represent interest for the period between the date of payment and the maturity date. So a bank of an exporter can discount that draft or hold it until maturity, and by maturity present it for payment. So when the buyer abroad accepts the draft and send it to me, my bank can discount it, or my bank keep it and present it to that bank abroad for payment at maturity. At maturity, the draft will be presented for payment to the drawee or whoever have accepted it. A draft accepted by a bank and returned to a presenter. In the documentary credit, it is common for draft to be held by the bank on whom it is drawn. So the idea is this. Basically, when the draft is accepted by the buyer's bank can keep it and pay me at maturity or send it to me through my bank, and my bank will keep it and present it for payment at maturity because it's like a check now, or my bank can simply pay me off and at a discount and collect the payment at maturity. Let's move on to another document. The document we looked at before was a financial document. Now we are looking at a commercial document. Ekwembelem. Ijoma, thank you very much for joining. Good evening. Olawu was Samuel Oladayo. Thank you very much for joining. Good evening. Transport document. If a transaction is going by sea, you issue a bill of lading. If the shipment is going by air, you issue an airway bill. If it's going by road, you issue a roadway bill. If it's going by rail, you issue a railway bill. Bill of lading are documents issued by a carrier, a master, or their respective agent, and usually have quasi-negotiable status, as well as evidencing the terms of contract of carriage, acting as a receipt of goods for the receipt of goods. A bill of lading can also provide entitlement to receive the goods. A bill of lading serves three functions. Number one, a bill of lading provides title to the goods. And that's why goods can be sold in transit by mere transfer of ownership of the bill of lading. Goods can be sold in transit by mere transfer of ownership of the bill of lading. As long as the bill of lading is in the hand of the exporter, he can sell the good in transit. Because of one of the pivotal functions of bill of lading, which is title to the goods. It's also a negotiable instrument. Title to the goods. Number two, it's an evidence of receipt of goods. When a buyer sees a bill of lading, he has no doubt in his mind that shipping line have the goods. A shipping line will not issue a bill of lading if it does not have the goods. Because he knows that if he issue a bill of lading without having the goods, he's going to pay for that good at destination. Because that bill of lading is going to be used to claim the goods, and he has to provide the goods at destination. So if at destination is unable to provide it, then he will pay for it. Because he already issued a document on top of which a buyer has effected payment, believing that his good is on the way. This I've just explained now poses a risk and a challenge to an individual in international trade. That means if someone is unscrupulous, he can arrange fake document and send it to you that he has shipped the goods. But one of the things we'll try to discuss in the course of this program, maybe in other series, is to discuss some of the risk and fraud and how to mitigate some of those risk and fraud in export trade and international trade in general. Number three is an evidence of contract of carriage. Number 1, evidence of title to the goods. Number 2, evidence of receipt of goods. Number 3, evidence of contract of carriage. Evidence of contract of carriage. Evidence of contract of carriage. This is so important. This is very important. Evidence of contract of carriage. When a buyer sees a bill of lading, he can transfer ownership. Is certain the good is in the custody of the shipping line. Is certain the shipping line have agreed to transport the goods to the destination. A bill of lading can be issued in different form. It can be multimodal bill of lading. If I'm shipping by air and by road together. Sorry, by sea and by road together. By air and by sea together. So I'm shipping my goods from Kano to Shanghai port in China. The first thing that will happen is that from Kano, I'll move it by road to Lagos. From Lagos, I'll move it by sea to Shanghai. The shipping line collected the goods from him in Kano. Shipping line give me a bill of lading that cover from Kano Inland Container Terminal to Shanghai Port. The shipping line issue me a multimodal bill of lading. The shipping line issues me a multimodal bill of lading. Because it's going to be using 2 modes of transport. He issues me a multimodal bill of lading. Multimodal bill of lading. If it's moving from port to port, it will issue me a regular bill of lading. If it's moving from port to port, it will issue me a regular bill of lading. Ocean bill of lading. Just regular bill of lading. Bill of lading is just a document. It's just a document that have information about goods being shipped, basically. It's just a document. I will try to see if I can show you a copy before I finish. I'm trying to open one now. I'm trying to see if I can show you a copy before I finish. But that's a multimodal bill of lading. Let me see if I can actually open one on my laptop. You know, when we're discussing things like this, it's very important sometimes to be able to demonstrate, especially for individuals that are relatively new, and some of these terms are not very more familiar with these terms. So what I try to do is to see if we can demonstrate for them to be able to okay, yeah, I think I've been able to do one. So what I would do now is I want to turn the camera of my phone. Can you see? Yeah, that's a bill of lading from PIL. That's a bill of lading from PIL. If you look closely, you can see 3 Impest Trade and Logistics. We did that shipment last year. Can you see the bill of lading number? Can you see it say port to port? Port to port or combined transport bill of lading. This is from PIL. Port to port or combined transport bill of lading. Can you see the bill of lading having a place of receipt, Apapa? Can you see it showing a port of loading, Apapa, and place of delivery, Nanjing? If it's a multimodal bill of lading, place of receipt will not likely be in Apapa, it will be in Kano if I give it to him in Kano. If I give it to him in Kano. Place of receipt will be Kano. If I give it to him in Kano. Can you see? Can you see port of discharge? Nanjing port. Nanjing port. That's the port of discharge. Nanjing port. Nanjing port. And you can see the consignee. The shipper is 3 Impest. The consignee is Nanjing Grosso Chemical. and you see the goods that are being shipped. The good that was shipped is called 180 bag of lead oxide concentrate. 1,080 bags of lead oxide concentrate. I want you to pay a particular attention to a statement. There's a statement you will see. I want to zoom at that statement. That you can see the statement. It says particular as declared by shipper, but without representation and notation and not acknowledged by carrier. That is a disclaimer. That is a disclaimer. That statement is basically saying the buyer, the shipping line is not responsible for any error or issue with this bill of lading. So if I have shipped, maybe I've shipped calcium carbonate, limestone, and I call it lead concentrate, or I ship zinc concentrate and I call it lead concentrate because lead concentrate is more expensive. But when I ship zinc concentrate, the shipping line will put zinc concentrate, even though what I ship is lead concentrate. Why? Because the shipping line is, that's why it's putting there particular as declared by the shipper. The particular inside, below, all these places, the particular in these places is as declared by shipper. Can you see it say particular as declared by shipper? Why is he saying that? It's a disclaimer saying in case the detail provided in this bill of lading is not correct, you cannot hold us responsible. That's basically what they are saying. Gabriela Bossede Deborah, thank you very much for joining. Good evening. What they are basically telling us is that they are not going to be part of it. They have exonerated themselves. Now, look at this. You can see the container. If you don't know container number, can you see the container number? Can you see PCIU 1229476? PCIU 2875423. That's container number. That's the container number. Then you can see the seal number. Every container have a seal number because the shipping line will seal it. So that when the importer receives the goods, he will have to break that seal himself. The shipping line put the seal. So shipping line, when they receive the goods, they put a seal on it. Why do they put a seal on it? They want to tell you that, look, oh, we don't know what is inside. We just receive and seal it. What they gave us that told us that is inside is exactly what we wrote on the bill of lading. So when an importer receives these goods now, he will check the bill of lading and check this seal number, W0462169. That seal number must correspond with the seal number on the physical container. If it is different, that's a problem. That's a fraud. Someone have tampered with the container. Someone have changed the seal number. Because you cannot change that seal without breaking it. You must break it for you to be able to have access to it. And you can see the total weight of the container. Total weight of the item sheet, 54 metric tons of lead concentrate. 54 metric tons of lead concentrate. What I'm trying to do is to bring to life what I'm trying to explain with a bill of lading. That's basically what I'm trying to do. You know, we are discussing documentation, so it's just wise and reasonable for you to be able to see how this document look like. Because then, we are able to bring it alive. It's not theory, it's not, you can relate with it, and you understand exactly what we mean by bill of lading. Now, when I get to airway bill, I will also show you how an airway bill look like. How an airway bill look like. So that it can be clear. You have a good understanding of how this document look like. And how important the document are. Like I said, this bill of lading give a document, or it's a document of title. It can be issued port to port. It can be issued land to port. Land to sea and port. Then I can have what is called charter party bill of lading. If I am exporting a product, let me give a good example of charter party in Nigeria. Someone will get a contract that he should export palm kernel shell. And they are asking him for 10,000 tons of palm kernel shell. 10,000 tons of palm kernel shell. That would be 33 times 10. 33 container times 10. That's 330 containers. Sometimes they will have to do that transaction bulk. It will be in big sack and just put on the vessel. Just put on the vessel. And what happened at the end of the day is that the shipping line will issue a bill of lading called charter party bill of lading, because I'm the only one that have good on that vessel. So because I'm the only one, I'm chartering the vessel to a particular destination for my transaction only. As a result of that, they issue to me charter party bill of lading. They issue to me charter party bill of lading. And with the charter party bill of lading, I am fine. I can easily clear the goods at the destination port, even though I own all the goods on it. The shipping line will not release the goods to me if I don't present that charter party bill of lading. Remember, bill of lading are documents of title. They are documents that enable me to take ownership of the goods. They also allow me to sell and transfer ownership while the good is in transit. While the good is in transit. Because of time, I won't be able to do airway bill tonight. But tomorrow morning, we'll be doing airway bill. And we'll also try to show you a copy of airway bill. We'll be doing some shipment to UK in recent time. For about 2 years now, finished goods to UK. And I'll show you some of the airway bill. So you see the item being shipped and the way the items are captured on the airway bill. Thank you very much for listening again to me today. My name remains Dele Ayimibo. And this is Import-Export Platform brought to you by 3 Best Trade Academy. Thank you very much for listening and have a very good evening. Bye for now. See you tomorrow morning, please. 8 a.m. tomorrow, we'll be having the part 6 of this program. Thank you.